Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Midlife Crisis. This week, it's Superman: Our Worlds at War Part 2. The massive Superman crossover event that we started last week. We covered the first 20 issues of the event, I want to say, something like that. And now this week, we're going to be doing the final 17 issues that include tie-ins, wrapping up this event. So far, if you want to know the story so far on what's going on in this event, this mysterious villain known as Imperiex is going around to different universes and sucking the energy out of planets, causing them to explode, and he plans on using that energy to create his own universe. As far as I can gather, that is we haven't really set out exactly what his plan is, but from the little bits of information that we've gotten about what he's trying to do, that's the most we can understand, is that he seems to be trying to create a universe out of energy that he is stealing from planets, and now he's finally made it to the main our universe, the DC universe, and is attempting to suck the energy out of planet Earth. And so Superman, alongside many heroes from Earth, have been trying to combat against him. The JSA went out to one of his massive ship bases and destroyed that, so they've crippled Imperiex quite a bit, his forces. At the same time, another villain known as Brainiac 13 is a rival of Imperiex and has been fighting Imperiex throughout all of time. Because basically, Brainiac 13 is a future version of Brainiac who has the ability to send himself through, versions of himself throughout time. And Imperiex has created drones of himself that he has also sent throughout time. So they've been battling each other for many years. Pretty much to the end of time, they are destined to fight one another. So he shows up and he takes part in the war as well, and we're kind of led to think is he a bad guy too? But Brainiac is more on the side of the people and Earth and stuff, because he wants Imperiex to be gone, but we kind of have this idea that once Imperiex is gone, Brainiac 13 is probably going to try and take over the universe as well. He just wants Imperiex out of the way first. So right now he's kind of a good guy, he's kind of on the right side, but he probably won't be once Imperiex is defeated. Pluto is gone. Pluto was transformed into a war world by Brainiac 13. A war world being a planet-sized ship normally piloted by villains like Mongol. So Pluto is gone, and Kyle Rayner had to create a fake Pluto in its place, so that it wouldn't offset the balance of the solar system. And recently, the Kents are seemingly dead. Kansas was blown up by Imperiex. Many people were killed. The Kents are dead, as far as we know, and that's left Superman pretty devastated. Steel is dead. John Henry Irons, aka Steel, is dead too. Guy Gardner is dead. Aquaman is dead from what we understand. Hippolyta, Diana's mother, has also been killed. And this has pushed Superman to a breaking point, and now he has willingly approached Lex Luthor, who is the President of the United States, and has agreed to join forces with Lex. This entire time he has been saying, no, I'm not going to join you, I'm going to do things my way. But now he's been pushed to a breaking point and he is joining Lex Luthor. So that's everything that's happened so far that I can think of. The Young Justice have been hired to act as medical officers during the war, so their goal is to go out and find injured people and bring them up to the spaceships so that they can be kept in there and helped and healed, etc. The entire population of Metropolis has been taken out of Metropolis and placed into a spaceship where they are being watched over. So that because Metropolis has been attacked by Imperix's forces, and so they had to take all the citizens out and keep them in a spaceship to keep them safe. So all of like Jimmy Olsen and that, they're all in a spaceship. Lois Lane is currently working with Lex Luthor. Oh, her dad has died too. General Lane, Lois Lane's father, has been killed, protecting the White House from Imperix's forces. And Darkseid has also teamed up with Lex Luthor as well, because an apocalypse is currently right above Earth. It's covering the moon. So Darkseid is here, and he's currently in Metropolis. He's taken over Metropolis, trying to keep it safe. Obviously, he has his own agendas, but right now he is interested in keeping Earth protected because he wants to be the one that destroys Earth eventually. He's not going to let somebody else do it. And I'm pretty sure that's it. I think that's everything that you would need to know before going into this. Oh yeah, there's this... there's a lot going on in this event. There's this project called Project Metropolis. And it is a secret underground base or laboratory where Lex Luthor has been experimenting on metahumans, creating metahumans. And Superboy and some of the remaining people of Cadmus, because Cadmus doesn't exist anymore, went in there to investigate. Batman went in there to investigate as well. He couldn't really get that far in without, the right details to get in there. So Superboy and some members of Cadmus went in there, and they discovered the truth about how metahumans are being experimented on and stuff. So there's a whole plot line of that's currently going on. About cloning, and because they're trying to clone an army of... Because there's a character called Jim Harper, who is a clone of Roy Harper. And they're trying to clone him. Well, he's not a clone of Roy Harper. He's Roy Harper's uncle. But then he got cloned. And he's normally known as the Guardian. And so they're trying to clone him to create an army of Guardians to fight in the war against Imperiex. Like I said, there is a lot going on in this. I think that's everything, though. I think that is all that we need to know. So, yeah, now that that's all out of the way, and I've explained everything that needs to... Oh, and Doomsday's dead. Doomsday, they had this thing called the Doomsday Protocol. There is a version... There's so much going on. There was a Suicide Squad that Amanda Waller put together that was made up of Superman villains led by Manchester Black. And they were tasked with going to the JLA Watchtower in order to free Doomsday, who was being held there because they were hoping that they could control Doomsday so that he would defeat Imperiex because he's supposed to be unkillable. All of the Suicide Squad members were killed except for Manchester Black. And Manchester Black managed to escape, and so now he's gone rogue. And when they freed Doomsday, Doomsday also killed Steel. And then Doomsday tried to go and fight Imperiex, and Superman fought alongside Doomsday, and Doomsday was killed immediately by the real Imperiex, because they were fighting his drones. And then the real Imperiex showed up, who's just ginormous, like the size of like an entire planet. And he just immediately just obliterated Doomsday by shooting him with a beam of energy. And so Doomsday is dead. And yeah, so that's everything. That's everything. Yeah, that should be everything. There's probably another thing I've forgotten, but there's so much going on in this. As far as I know, that's all the important things that have happened. So without further ado, let's just get straight into the event. But before we do, please subscribe and hit the like button and comment below your thoughts on the event and what your favorite moments are and anything you like about it. But yeah, the first issue that we're going to be covering today is Batman issue 593, written by Ed Brubaker with art by Scott McDaniel. So in this issue, there are two storylines going on. One is related to our Worlds at War, The other one isn't related to it at all and is just what's currently going on in Batman. In that story, Batman is currently investigating this bodyguard named Zeiss, who he thinks is involved in the attempted murder of his boss, who is currently in a wheelchair and is still going through like speech therapy and stuff. And they found out that the attempted murder was from, like, Deadshot was hired by somebody to kill him, and Batman has a feeling that Zeiss might be involved, and that he also thinks the Penguin is involved somehow. So that's the storyline that is currently going on in Batman, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about how this issue ties into Our Worlds at War. At the beginning, we find two FBI agents entering a nearby building where they find a mysterious alien with tentacle-like fingers that is clearly very afraid and has been shot in the leg or hurt its leg recently because it's bleeding. And one of the FBI agents just wants to shoot the alien right away, while the other one is like, whoa, hold on, Scott, like, he doesn't seem dangerous. Like, he seems pretty harmless. And so Brian, this FBI agent, starts reaching towards him, and the other one's like, I'm telling you, damn it, like, he's a stupid alien. And then we cut to the outside of the building where we hear gunfire and screaming. So we're not really sure what happened. Except that, someone got shot and someone got hurt. So, later, Batman sees, like, what's currently going on with, the two FBI agents are brought in to a nearby emergency room where they've been placed into a coma, and they have, like, suction marks all over their face. And so Batman decides to investigate. He believes that this has something to do with Project Metropolis and the other spaceship that recently landed in the city. He investigates the building that the FBI agents were found in, where he finds a massive crater in the middle of the building, and so Batman comes to the conclusion that another ship must have crashed into the building and landed, which means he's dealing with two spaceships. And he actually goes and questions the commissioner about it, and the commissioner reveals to him that they weren't FBI agents, they were, FBI agents, they were DEO agents. The DEO deal with, like, extraterrestrial stuff. So Batman heads off to go back to the other plot line where he's trying to find the Penguin to question him about the attempted murder. And at the very end of the issue, we find this man whose name is Father Nick. He finds the alien in question in his nearby alleyway, and he treats the alien with compassion and care, and he's like, no, you're not going to freeze in Father Nick's backyard, whatever you are. You were sent to me, and I'll care for you here. That's what Sanctuary is all about. And the alien is like, Sanctuary? As they both walk into the building. And that's where the issue ends, and we'll find out what happens next within this specific story in a later Batman tie-in. But for now, the next tie-in that we're going to be talking about is Supergirl issue 60. So, written by Peter David with art by Leonard Kirk and Robin Riggs. Surprisingly, this Supergirl tie-in isn't in the paper trade of Our Worlds at War, like in either volumes, even though I'd say it's important. It involves Supergirl facing one of the Imperiex drones, and it's very important to Supergirl's current story and status quo in the DC universe, so, you'd think they would include it, especially because Imperiex is in it, like, or at least a drone of his is. So, Supergirl has recently left Kansas, or I think she's still in Kansas, because it's big, but she's left Smallville, because she was there with Clark, and he told her to stay and look after Kansas while he went off to help the JLA after the Kents died. And she immediately, as soon as he left, she saw an Imperiex drone appear and start heading off in a direction, and so she decided to pursue it. Right now, Supergirl can't fly, she needs the help of a Black Hawk jet in order to chase after the Imperiex drone. So she's got a Black Hawk helping her. He doesn't really have a name. He's just a member of the Black Hawks. And so they start chasing after this drone, and he tries shooting at it, and it doesn't do anything. And the drone just cuts straight through the Black Hawk jet, and Supergirl kind of like loses her footing because she can't really do anything. She can't fly, so it's really hard for her to stop the jet from falling. So what happens is he has his parachute out because the pilot of the jet shoots out of the jet as it gets destroyed. But then the drone cuts through his parachute, causing him to fall. However, Supergirl is able to jump high enough to grab him, but then she gets blasted by the Imperiex drone, knocking her out. And, like, it causes her to get all woozy, and before she passes out, she manages to kind of, like, grab the guy and flip him over in his, like, chair that he's sitting in, so that when they land on the ground, he lands on top of her because she's pretty much invulnerable. So he was able to cushion the blow and stop him from being killed. Meanwhile, the character known as Buzz, who was the guy that let a woman in the previous issue, this guy is an asshole. He almost let a woman get sexually assaulted, or he let her get sexually assaulted, and then it finally stepped in once it was really getting way too far. But he's still an asshole for even letting it get past the initial stage. He gets taken into the police, and he's such a jackass that they decide to just throw him into a prison cell, and the prison cell he ends up with is the guys that he, like, beat the crap out of for, like, assaulting this woman. And so they're like, we're gonna have a fun time with him, and Buzz is like, can't wait. And so Supergirl wakes up in the middle of the woods alongside the Black Hawk member, and they find the town of Forest Green completely destroyed as the Imperiex drone has just blasted its way through. And Supergirl realizes that the trajectory that the Imperial drone is traveling will go straight through Leesburg, which is Supergirl's hometown. So she wants to head to Leesburg and stop the drone from killing her father and all of, like, her entire family, because her father is a cop and he's most likely going to try and get in the way of the drone and fight it, and so he's at risk, which is exactly what happens. Her father and all of his forces face the Imperiex drone as it appears in Leesburg. The Imperiex drone goes to blast all of the cops, and they just grab their weapons and they're just like, everyone stand your ground, on my order, prepare to... And the Imperiex drone is like, you are in my way. And then Supergirl appears and is like, and you are in my town. And just, like, smashes it in the head, causing its beam to shoot off course and away from all of the citizens. And then she fights the Imperiex drone, but the Imperiex drone is incredibly powerful. She tries punching it in the head and it doesn't do anything. And then it just knocks her back with his, like, razor blade, and it almost cuts through her abdomen, and she realizes that, like, bullets and stuff don't work against her, but the Imperiex drone is strong enough that it can actually pierce her skin, so if she's not careful, she can die. And as she's about to be killed by the Imperiex drone, a character known as Comet, who is this half horse, half angel guy, shows up and catches Supergirl. She's, like, friends with him. Well, Comet is actually secretly Supergirl's friend Andy, who is a woman, and she has the ability to switch forms between man and woman. And currently she's in her male form. And so she catches Supergirl, and then Andy's... Because Andy's a lesbian, right? I'm pretty sure, yeah. Andy's... partner, Blythe, shows up, who is a woman, and Andy yeah, that like Supergirl discovers that Andy and Blythe are together, and she's like, "What?" And Andy's like, "Yeah, I couldn't wait around for you forever." I'm pretty sure Andy was the woman that was friends with Supergirl. So this kind of feels like a bit of like a, not only is this like it feels very like, this is kind of like a Comet is a representation for trans people, I guess, which is kind of cool. It seems, especially because Comet is portrayed in a pretty positive light, and the relationship between Comet and Blythe is incredibly seems to be pretty positive as well, which is good. So they all team up with Supergirl in order to fight Imperix's drone. But Supergirl realizes that the drone is too strong for them to defeat, and that not even even Superman struggled to face a drone. So how are they going to be able to destroy it? But luckily for them, the Imperiex drone decides to leave because it feels like it's wasting time, because its goal is to get to the White House, and Leesburg just happened to be on the way to the White House, and it calculates that if it changes its trajectory, it'll get to the White House faster than if it continues to fight Supergirl and Comet and Blythe. And so it heads off to the White House, and Supergirl decides to head after it to stop it, from destroying and hurting any more people. And Supergirl's mom gets a call on the phone from her dad, and that's when it's revealed that her mom is pregnant, and that she's gonna have a little sister, which is incredibly nice. A very, very wholesome ending to this book. A much less depressing issue, like a much less dark issue. It's like almost the complete opposite in terms of of feeling and stuff than the previous issue. The previous issue was incredibly dark and depressing. This one is, a town gets destroyed, but it's not as devastating as the previous issue was, and there's no sexual assault or anything, which is good. I don't want that. I'm never going back to read that other issue. But yeah, that's the end of that issue, and it was a pretty good issue. I enjoyed it quite a lot. I don't know why it's not in the paper trade. It really should be. It's good. But the next issue that we're going to be talking about is Wonder Woman issue 172, because the Wonder Woman tied in pretty heavily into this event. So we're going to be seeing more of that. And how her story continues. So in this issue of Wonder Woman, we expand a little bit more on how Hippolyta died, because as we know in the previous issue, it was kind of like a twist switch around where we thought it was Diana, but it turned out it was Hippolyta, and so this issue gives a lot more context on it and makes Hippolyta's death a lot more serious than it really was in the original. In the previous comic, when we saw her death, it was very much like, oh, she died, and that sucks. But in this, it's kind of like, oh, she died, and it was horrible, the way she died. So, a lot of the regular stuff happened that we'd seen before, like Hippolyta seeing all the chaos going on in the paradox that she's currently in, all the aliens in there going chaotic because of Imperiex attacking the paradox. Paradox are like the big ships that all the people are in to keep them safe. They get like medical attention and stuff in there, and we get to see Hippolyta's reaction to Diana being brought to the Paradox in order to be healed after she was gravely damaged by one of the Imperiex drones. And then this woman appears before Hippolyta and says that she was a slave saved by Diana, and that she's going to help heal Diana. Diana's face is all messed up. It's pretty awful. She's got like severe burns and stuff. And so when the Paradox eventually gets attacked by Imperiex drones, as we know, Hippolyta went to find Diana and noticed that she was missing from her bed. But what we don't know is that she very quickly found Diana right after, and stopped her from going out to fight the Imperiex drones, because that's what Diana was trying to do. And Hippolyta was just like, you're in too worse, like, you're in a really bad way right now. You can't go out and fight them. I'll go out instead and fight them. And so Hippolyta wears the armor that Diana was going to wear, or like an armor that looks exactly like Diana's, and heads out to fight the Imperiex drones, which she deals a pretty nasty blow to them, but they are incredibly powerful. So, you know, while she does manage to destroy one of the Imperiex drones, the probe that, like, because they've been sending these probes to the Paradox in order to destroy them, and one of them had, like, wait a minute. Okay, so what was happening was the Paradox was being attacked by Imperix's drones, and while they were attacking the Paradox, sorry, this is hard to explain, but while they were attacking the Paradox, they were building a hollower, which is one of the devices that Imperiex uses to suck the energy out of planets. And while Hippolyta was able to destroy the drones fast enough, the half-built hollower that they were building started crashing towards Earth. And so Kyle Rayner comes along and tries to help stop it from crashing, but then he gets caught up having to seal up a bunch of holes in the Paradox because a bunch of the drones made holes into it, made holes in it, so he's trying to seal that up, and Hippolyta kind of gives him words of encouragement to help him, and she decides to go and stop the hollower from crashing into the Earth all by herself. She heads to it and she tries to, like, use her pure strength to keep it from crashing into the planet. And that's when Diana comes along and decides that she needs to be the one that does it, and that she wants her mother. She's like, I'll do it. Like, you head back to safety, Mom. And Hippolyta's like, no, Diana. Like, it's gotta be me that does it. You know, I need to show that I'm a great Wonder Woman. And then Imperiex drone shows up and attacks Diana. And so Hippolyta tries to help Diana, and she manages to get Diana out of the grasp of the Imperiex drone, and then the two of them fight the drone together, and Hippolyta wraps her lasso around the drone's neck and rips its head off, causing it to explode, and the explosion sends Hippolyta crashing in a fireball into Earth, where Superman finds her body, and then, as we know, Diana shows up and shoves Superman out of the way, and kneels next to her mother's body and is like, Mother, stay still, going to take the helmet off. And this is when we find out just how horrific Hippolyta's death really is, because Diana pulls off her mask and her face is just got, like, third-degree burns all over it. She looks like Freddy Krueger. It's pretty messed up, and she can't even talk. She can't say anything. Like, she's just like, that's literally her speech bubbles in there. She's just like, and then she dies. She dies, and Diana is just like, Mother, and she's just got her in her arms, and that's where it ends. Like I said, pretty messed up. It was nice to have context on the death, but at the same time, like, I know this is gonna get undone eventually. So, like, we got all this horrible death, and it's probably not even gonna stick. Or, in fact, I know it's not gonna stick, because I'm pretty sure Hippolyta is in later books. Yeah, I don't know. It's It's sad. I hope she doesn't come back. I'm pretty sure she does eventually, but I would hope not. I hope I'm wrong. But yeah, that's the Wonder Woman tie-in, and so the next issue that we're going to be talking about is Our Worlds at War, Wonder Woman, the one shot. So we'll probably get a little bit more of the aftermath of Hippolyta's death and what Wonder Woman's going to do after that. You know, I'm expecting that she's going to be filled with a lot of rage and that she's going to just go straight to, you know, violence and attack Imperiex drones or something. I guess we'll find out. And unfortunately, I think we're just gonna skip Wonder Woman: Our Worlds at War. My reasoning being that nothing happens in it that is related to Our Worlds at War at all. So I'm just gonna say what it's about, and I'm not even gonna talk about it because all that really happens in it is Diana and Hippolyta are off actually being in the event. Hippolyta is busy dying, and all the Amazons are doing and the Themyscirans are doing are just waiting for Diana and Hippolyta to return. And what do while they wait? They just tell some stories about Hippolyta and Diana, like Diana when she was a child, Hippolyta when she was, you know, young, Hippolyta when she was working with the JSA. Like, that's all this is. And it's just like, I'm not here to read that. I'm not here to read stories about, like, Diana and Hippolyta when they were younger. What I'm here for is for more stuff to do with the event, information, things going on in the event, not just characters telling stories because, you know, you want to waste this one shot. Like, sorry, Phil, but what a waste of a one shot to this event that has nothing to do with the event. So yeah, we're not going to talk about this. Instead, we're going to be moving straight on to an issue that is actually worth talking about. Superman issue 173. So, I think this issue of Superman kind of shows the real problem with Imperiex, which is that he was just a plot device, and that he's not an interesting villain at all, and that he's just here to serve one purpose and one purpose only, and you'll find out what that is in this issue, written by Jeff Loeb, with art by Ed McGuinness and Cam Smith. Superman finally agrees to work for Lex Luthor, and asks Lex to tell him the entire situation and what the plan is. So basically, Imperiex now has one prime form remaining that they need to destroy. And Superman is like, so you want me to be the one that goes in and kills him? And Lex is like, well, you gotta stop thinking of it about that way. Because, like, you've used your freeze breath to, you know, get rid of fire, and you've used your heat vision to stop tidal waves. Think of it as another one of those situations where you're going to have to use your powers to destroy this thing, otherwise we're all dead. And then it's revealed that Superman isn't going to be the one that technically kills Imperiex. It's actually going to be a character known as Sharon Vance, aka the Strange Visitor, who we met in a previous issue. She was in the Metropolis Project, and she was found by Superboy, and she currently has the Superman blue powers that Superman, like Clark Kent, previously had. So she's going to go with Superman to find Imperiex Prime, and she's going to help Superman destroy him. Before he leaves, Superman has a little bit of a goodbye moment with Lois. Like, he goes and talks to her. It's not really a goodbye, he just goes to say, like, I'm off. And that's when it's, like, I didn't realize that, like, so Lois doesn't know that Clark is Superman yet at this point in time. She still doesn't know. I thought she did, she doesn't. Because she clearly refers to Superman as somebody else in this issue, and she misses Clark. I also don't know if her and Clark are married. I don't think so. Maybe they are. I don't know. I don't even know if they're together. I don't know if they're an item yet or not. But Superman says goodbye to her and heads off into space with Sharon and General Rock and some of the Black Hawks. Diana heads into space as well. We don't see what she does in this issue. She just heads off to find Imperiex Prime as well. Like, I guess to just kind of help save people off panel. Sharon has a big argument with General Rock because General Rock was in the army and he basically just has a massive go at her and is like, I was in the army and like they're rewarding me for my work in the army, but it's not like I want that reward. I don't really want all of this fame and glory for what I did back then. You know, and that's just me. And so he kind of just heads off on his own. Like, he gets real grumpy at her. He's just like, just because I was in the war and just because I have all this fame and stuff from it doesn't mean I want it. Because she gets all in his face and is like, you know, it's ironic that you're saying that, like, we're all in this together when destroying Imperiex because I don't remember any of your teammates in the war getting as much accolation as you did, you know, and he was just like, don't talk to me like that. I don't even want all that accolation for what I did. So that happens. So Sharon and Superman get dropped off into the middle of space, and that's when it's revealed that Sharon is planning on sacrificing herself by having Superman absorb her entirely, transforming him back into Superman Blue for a brief moment. So he absorbs the strange visitor entirely, and that's when it was revealed that back when Superman got rid of all of his energy and became normal again and wasn't Superman Blue anymore, this woman, Sharon Vance, was gonna die and the energy saved her. But then it's revealed here that she's actually dead and that the energy just took on her form and that it's actually this being called Kismet and it is fulfilling its purpose in destroying Imperiex. So it's basically telling Superman, let me, like, absorb me, let me do my job, which is to help you destroy Imperiex and allow Sharon's name to live on in history as, you know, a heroic sacrifice. And so Superman allows Kismet to enter his body. He transforms into Superman Blue, and he heads straight for Imperiex Prime and smashes directly into his chest while Kyle Rayner tries to stop the energy blast. Like, he tries to keep the energy blast together using his construct powers, but obviously he can't. But yeah, Imperiex explodes, and Kyle Rayner is able to contain some of the energy, but not all of it, because some of the energy actually leaks out, and Warworld appears, because it was invisible this entire time, and they didn't know, but Brainiac has been in, like, Brainiac 13 has been in Warworld this entire time, watching everything play out, waiting for Imperiex to be destroyed, and now that Imperiex has been destroyed, he appears and starts absorbing Imperix's energy through Warworld, and then using the energy, he takes control of LexCorp Tower and has LexCorp Tower's weapon system shoot a laser beam, like a big beam, at Apocalypse, attacking Apocalypse. And because Darkseid doesn't know that Brainiac 13 is involved, he thinks that Earth is attacking Apocalypse, and so he declares war on Apocalypse. And that's where the issue ends. It ends with Brainiac 13 basically turning Earth and Apocalypse against one another by tricking Darkseid into believing that Earth is attacking him. And, yeah, so it's very clear that, like, Imperiex was kind of just a pointless villain in this. Nothing but, like, not pointless, but, like, just a plot device. He was not a villain. He was a plot device. His whole purpose was to eventually just be destroyed and then open the door for Brainiac 13 to be the real villain of this event, I guess. Yeah, I'm not really a fan of Imperiex. I think he was just a nothing villain that had no real interesting goal and no personality, nothing. Um, Brainiac 13 seems to be a much more interesting villain, which is ironic because he's also a robot, and yet, unlike Imperiex, he's actually interesting. But yeah, that's that issue. So we're really getting into what's to be the final act of this event, with Brainiac 13 taking over the role of the main villain, and we'll discover what happens next in the next tie-in, which is Young Justice issue 6. So, written by Peter David with art by Todd Nork and Marlo Alquiza. First of all, this issue of Young Justice starts off a little bit confusing because we start off in future events and then flash back to how we ended up here, but it's not made very clear. I remember starting this and being like, wait, we're starting off on Apocalypse? Why are we on Apocalypse? I don't remember the last Young Justice issue ending on Apocalypse. So basically what happens is, I'll just start from like where the story truly begins, which is in space. Young Justice have been sent off to the JLA Watchtower in order to make sure that the Suicide Squad are okay and to get them back safely, because they're taking on the role of Paradox and medics during the war. And they're currently split on two sides, where Superboy doesn't want to go to the JLA Watchtower to save villains because they're supervillains. Robin, just wants to do his job and do what they're told, which is to go and help the Suicide Squad. Like, doesn't necessarily want to because they're supervillains, but he feels like he has to because that's the job they've been given during this war and it's important. And so they get into a massive fight over this, and it has to be broken up by Secret, you know. Well, it's not really it's not a fight, it's like an argument. They get into a bit of an argument over it. And then the Black Racer shows up. He just appears and phases through their ship, and he's got Steel with him, because as we know, Steel is dead. And they try to stop him, and he just goes straight through them. And so Khan is like, alright, set your course for the Black Racer. We're going after him because he's got Steel and we need to figure out what's going on. We need to help save Steel. And so Loba's like, yeah, I'm happy to do that. Like, I've been meaning to kick the Black Racer's ass for a long time, so I want to go straight after him. And Robin's just like, no, we're not going after him. We're going to the Watchtower because that's where we're supposed to go. And that's when Khan and Tim get into a fight over what they need to do next. Secret is on Tim's side, and Secret is also very good at convincing Lobo to listen to Tim, and so she tells Lobo to set a course for the tower, for the Watchtower, and Lobo's like, I'm sorry, it's too late, we're already here. And it turns out that Lobo has flown them straight to Apocalypse, which is where the Black Racer has gone. And upon entering Apocalypse, they are immediately shot down by a bunch of lasers, and they crash land onto Apocalypse. And so Tim immediately just starts fighting Connor, blaming him for how they've ended up on Apocalypse, and their ship has been, torn to shreds. And eventually their fight is broken up by Secret and some of the other members of Young Justice. They convinced him that he's only acting like this because Apocalypse is starting to bring that kind of emotion out of him, and as it tends to do that, it tends to bring the anger and rage out of people when they're in its vicinity. So Tim splits up everyone and tells them to go to different parts of Apocalypse to they have different jobs. So, like, Tim, Empress, and Secret are gonna go off and try and find stuff for Lobo so that he can help fix the ship, while Superboy, Impulse, and Wonder Girl head off to make sure that no one gets in their way, because they are some of the stronger members of the team, so they'll be able to fight off any parademons or any of Darkseid's forces that might get in their way. While looking for ship parts, Tim and Empress are almost killed by erupting volcanic lava. The Secret manages to catch up with them and is like, hey, I found some ships that, like, crash landed. Y'all okay? Like, you look pretty burnt up. And they're like, nah, we're fine. We just got a little bit of trouble. We're all good now. And so Secret shows them all of these broken down ships nearby. And before they can go in and get any pieces for Lobo, a bunch of parademons, like a whole army of parademons, come out and start fighting Robin, Empress, and Secret. So they start fighting back, and the parademons actually capture Secret in a, like, force field bubble, and Robin starts to get overwhelmed and is going to die, and he's come to terms with the fact that he's going to die, but he wanted to at least get a chance to talk to Connor and say that he's sorry. And that's when Lobo shows up and just starts killing the parademons and starts, like, beating the crap out of them, because he's pretty much unkillable. But he's not unkillable, as we're about to find out, because while he's mowing through all of these parademons, the Black Racer shows up. And Lobo's like, yeah, at last, my chance to finally kill that bastard. And then the Black Racer just kills him. He just rides straight through Lobo and kills him. So yeah, Lobo's dead, or at least Kid Lobo's dead, which means adult Lobo's probably dead too, because this is supposed to be Lobo from the past. And that's where it ends. It ends with, Robin and Empress and Secret being enslaved by the parademons, and Lobo being killed. So we're going to have to find out what happens to the Young Justice at a later time. But for now, we're going to be switching over to a different book, which is Adventures of Superman, issue 595, written by Joe Casey, with art by Mike Wieringo and Jose Marzan Jr., two names that we are incredibly familiar with. Oh, and there's also art from Bill Sienkiewicz as well, who we know from he only does page 9, but he did Moon Knight. Like, that's what we know him from when I was covering Moon Knight a while back. So this issue is all about just alliances flipping and flopping, everyone betraying each other, and because Imperiex has been destroyed by Superman, and everyone thinks that Superman is dead, that he sacrificed himself to destroy Imperiex, and Brainiac 13 has turned against Earth and has taken control of Luthor Corp to shoot at Darkseid, and Darkseid is now retaliating, so he's turning against Earth, because he's like, man, Earth is breaking our alliance, and Luthor is currently trapped inside LexCorp, and so he's like, alright, I gotta go find Lena, his daughter, who he gave to Brainiac 13, who is currently working for Brainiac 13, so he goes off to find her and get answers. Meanwhile, Darkseid and Graven are plotting to destroy Earth, and, Darkseid continues to call Graven a piece of crap and a embarrassing son and stuff, because Graven keeps saying to Darkseid that, like, he should have seen this coming, and that, like, there's no way that he didn't plan for Earth to betray him and stuff like that. And that's when Superman breaks into the room and is just like, yo, I'm here. Like, I'm not dead, bitches. I'm here to take you down. And Graven's just like, your unique talent for returning from the dead is apparently one you still possess. Of course, you've never been killed by me. And he's like, fine, take your best shot. And then we just see a shot of Graven just get sent flying out of the building as Superman just knocks him out in one punch. And Darkseid is like, I saw you die, Kryptonian. Like, how is it possible that you live? Why do you keep coming back? And Superman's just like, he doesn't know how I came back. He doesn't know, like, he thinks to himself, he's like, he doesn't know the fact that, like, I was with the mysterious traveler Sharon Vance, and she sacrificed herself in order to destroy Imperiex, and I ended up seeing existence itself from the outside, so I know everything about existence, while Darkseid doesn't. And he says to Darkseid, he's like, I've seen existence itself, I know everything. How does it feel to be so small and inconsequential, Darkseid? And Darkseid is just like, I am all that is. Now you will feel the darkest evil. You will die with your delusions. And he starts fighting Superman, and Superman's just like, not this time. And they start clashing. He's like, you will fall. And he's like, no, I don't think so. I've come too far. I lasted too long to let a despot like you decide for the rest of us who lives and who dies. And he just smacks Darkseid in the face. And meanwhile, Lex goes and talks to Lana, and Lana is basically just like, haha, sucker, you've been played. I've been working for Brainiac 13 this whole time. He is where my loyalty lies, not you, father. I call him my master, and he completely played you, and now he's betrayed you, and you're just gonna have to sit back and watch as Brainiac 13 takes control of everything and becomes the master of the universe. See ya, sucker. And she disappears, and Lex is just like, damn it, I'm gonna need to find a way to still come out on top. And so he starts making plans on getting back at Brainiac 13 and his daughter for betraying him. Darkseid and Superman's fight continues, and Darkseid just can't believe that Superman knows the truth to existence. He's like, you will die before you learn the truth. He's like, still here, Darkseid. Anything else you want to throw at me? And that's when Warworld shoots a massive blast of energy at Apocalypse, destroying a large portion of it. And then Graven shows up and is like, hey, father, it turns out I'm on Brainiac 13's side, and I can't wait for him to take over Apocalypse and take over the universe, because I've renounced you as my master, and now Brainiac 13 is my real master. And Darkseid is like, so you've renounced the Church of Darkseid, and now you've created the Church of Brainiac 13. And Graven is like, yep, that's exactly right, father. And then Darkseid is like, well, I should have taught you a lesson a long time ago, son, because you're a worthless piece of shit. And he just shoots one of his Omega beams at Graven and is like, maybe you should go think, alone in seclusion, like in somewhere else. And he just shoots Graven with his Omega beam, sending Graven somewhere in solitary confinement, I guess, in like some other dimension where the Omega beams can send people. Graven's gone. And Lex Luthor meets with a emissary of General Zod and decides that he's going to team up with General Zod, and that the key to winning this war is his daughter, and that when they win this war, General Zod will be guaranteed world power. So let us talk about Zod's role in this scenario. And yeah, then Darkseid and Superman are kind of left talking to each other and are basically just like, I know we've been fighting, but we really are going to have to, stop fighting each other and focus on the bigger threat at hand. Like, what are we gonna do? And Superman's just like, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm going to kill Brainiac 13. And it seems like Superman's been pushed to the point of like, he's like, nah, I'm gonna kill that dude. I'm gonna kill that bitch. Like, I'm gonna kill Brainiac 13. I don't care anymore. Like, he's killed so many people that I love, and I've had enough. I want this war to end. I'm gonna kill him. And, that's where it ends. That's where the issue finishes. And so, the next tie-in that we're going to be talking about is Flash, Our World's at War, written by Jeff Johns. So, Flash, Our World's at War, written by Jeff Johns, with art by Angel Unzueta and Jose Marzan Jr. this is probably the best one shot out of all of the Our Worlds at War one shots. It begins with a man known as William Walker, who is a Vietnam veteran, and while he was in Vietnam, he was leading his team through the forest, like his squad, and then they were all suddenly bombed by planes flying overhead, and all of his entire team was killed except for him. He ended up becoming paralyzed because a fragment of one of his men's bones lodged into his flew into his spine and paralyzed him. And so now he in present day he's in he's just in a hospital, and the only visitor he really gets is his sister, and um and her boyfriend Ray, who is a doctor, and she basically tells Willie that they're coming close to finding a way to help Willie walk again, so that he's no longer bedridden. And as she's talking to him, the room explodes because a laser was shot through it, and it turns out that the city is being attacked by parademons because Our Worlds at War is currently going on and Apocalypse is attacking different cities across the globe. So Ray tries to get Willie's sister to safety, and then we get the big reveal that Willie is the Black Racer, the omen of death for Apocalypse. Uses his body as a vessel, which was something I didn't know about. He's been the Black Racer since Jack Kirby created the character, but I didn't know about his origins, so it was interesting to know. So the Black Racer has been called because death is happening and he needs to be there to take the people that are supposed to die. So he starts traveling throughout the city, just killing people. There's a father and son. It's really messed up. There's this father and son who are being attacked by parademons, and Black Racer kind of comes through, and they're like, "Oh look, Dad, it's a superhero! He's come to help us!" And the Black Racer just kills them both. It's so messed up. He just goes kills them both, and then flies off, and is like, "See ya." Yeah, especially because it's a child. So we really get to see just the Black Racer just doesn't care. It doesn't matter if you're a kid, an adult. He will just kill you if you're meant to die. So Wally is picking up trash throughout the city, helping, the everyday folk, and specifically Keystone Motors, which is where Keith Kenyon has been, dealing with, because he's trying to get better work for the people in Keystone City, and Wally is reluctantly helping him because so far Keith has shown no reason to mistrust him, even though he used to be the villain Goldface. Linda and Wally have a weird argument about the war. Just feels like an unnecessary argument of them just disagreeing with each other, and Wally just being like, "Well, you've never been on the front lines, Linda, so you can't say anything." And it's like, whoa, calm down, Wally. It's your wife you're talking to. You don't need to be so aggressive. And so as he's dealing with Keith Kenyon, a couple of lasers blast down into them, and they see, and they manage to just get out of the way in time, and a bunch of parademons have started swarming into the area, so the Flash and Keith Kenyon and his men decide to fight back, and that's when the Black Racer shows up, and sees the crowd of people at Keystone Motors, and is like, "There are people here that are supposed to die, so I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna kill some people, because that's what I do." And meanwhile, Wally reunites with Victor Stone, who, aka Cyborg, who at this point in time has cloned himself a body so that he can be human again. And Jeff Johns has retconned it so that it's he has a cloned body and he is human, but his cloned body still has powers and he can still become Cyborg if he wants to. That was not a thing that was established in Titans. In Titans, it was kind of he has his new body and he's not Cyborg anymore. He just has a body now and is human. But Jeff was like, but he still needs to be cyborg, so he still has powers. He just has the ability to look human now. So Wally has hired him in order to help with the parademons in the city. So Cyborg creates a machine, a tunnel, where if Wally runs through it, um, it'll set off a massive magnetic pulse or electromagnetic pulse that will destroy all the jetpacks of the parademons and destroy them. You know, like their jetpacks will explode, killing them all, or at least the ones in the city. And yeah, because there was like a chip in their jetpack, and Cyborg was able to hack into it, and he's almost finished doing the tunnel. But when he tries to finish it, it turns out that the parademons had hacked into it, and now it's going to take them longer to finish the tunnel because he like puts his hand in to like because he can morph his hand, and he morphs his hand into the machine to try and finish it, and he just gets zapped. And Cyborg is like, well, it's going to take us even longer to finish this. You'd better, you know, and keep the parademons busy while we try to finish this tunnel. And so Wally decides that he's going to try and keep the parademons busy, but he's not going to be able to do it by himself. Victoria's like, you're going to need some power. Like, you're going to need some manpower on your side. And so he transforms into Cyborg, and he has a really nice gold armor that he wears. It's like the classic look, but painted gold. It looks really nice. I really like this design. And so Cyborg runs into battle and he starts fighting parademons alongside Wally. And that's when the Black Racer shows up and starts killing parademons. And Wally's like, oh my god, who are you? And he's like, I am the Black Racer, and I'm here to kill people that are supposed to die, including that little girl right there. And Flash is like, I'm not going to let you kill some little girl. There's no such thing as like having to die. Like, we can change fate. And the Black Racer is like, no, if you're supposed to die, then you're supposed to die, so let me kill that little girl. And Wally's just like, I'm not gonna let you. The Black Racer is like, are you challenging me? Do you think you can outrun me? And Wally is like, yeah, I think I can. And so he grabs the girl and he runs off with her, and he basically just has Black Racer chasing him throughout Keystone City. Black Racer swipes him with his Reaper's scythe, and it hurts Wally, but it doesn't kill him. Instead, it actually sends a surge through the scythe back to the Black Racer, and it hurts him, which leaves him stunned. He's like, wow, why am I getting hurt by the Flash? One more slash from my scythe, you won't survive the second time. And so Wally only really has one plan, which could possibly save this little girl from the Black Racer, and that is to run into the tunnel, because it happens to be, like, they finally finish fixing it, and so as they finish fixing it, Wally runs straight into the tunnel, and the Black Racer follows him, and then he activates the tunnel, which sets off the electromagnetic pulse, but because the Black Racer is in there, it siphons his energy as well, and it makes the electromagnetic pulse so powerful that not only does it destroy every parademon in the city, it destroys every parademon in the entire world at the same time. And it also activates a boom tube that Black Racer accidentally goes into, and it just teleports him somewhere else, so it keeps him away from the child, and he's probably never going to be able to, like, he's probably not going to be bothered coming back because he's too busy. Like, he's got more people to go and kill that he's just going to let this kid live because otherwise, you know, he's going to be even more delayed, and he just doesn't have time. So, yeah, the child is spared. The parademons throughout the entire globe are destroyed. Cyborg tells Wally that although he loves being in LA, he'd rather be somewhere else that's a little bit more busy, like Keystone, and like where he can be a hero. And he asks Wally, he's like, how's Central City doing lately? Do they need a hero? So it's kind of like, is Cyborg gonna become the hero of Central City? No. It's one of those things that Jeff Johns kind of like hints at that doesn't play out. It's not the first time, and it's not the last time that will happen. So Unable to kill the child, Black Racer instead goes on to kill the next person on his list, which happens to be Ray, William's sister's boyfriend. So, and William is conscious while the Black Racer is killing people. So he's trying to tell the Black Racer not to kill Ray. He's like, "No, don't!" And Ray dies. And then the Black Racer goes back to William's body and exits his body, or like re-enters his body, I guess, and gives William full control. And William is just left paralyzed, praying for his sister's forgiveness, of being like, "I'm sorry, like, I didn't want it to happen. This is the life I'm forced to live. This is the torture I'm forced to go through, which is not only killing random people, but also people that I'm close to or my family loves." And that's the whole one-shot. Like I said, pretty damn good. I wasn't expecting a one-shot to go so deep into the Black Racer and how he works psychologically, and also like who he is when he's not the Black Racer. It's interesting. It's a thing that, like, it's the first time I've read quite a few Black Racer stories now, especially starting Worlds at War, and this is the first time I've ever seen anyone actually dive into who he is. So it's interesting. The next comic that we're going to be talking about, we're done with that one shot, is Impulse issue 77. So we're probably going to find out what happens to the Young Justice in that, because I don't think there's another Young Justice issue. I think this will be like the conclusion to that little arc that they've been going through. Okay, we're really far into this event, but I'm glad that we're getting tie-ins that are pretty good. I'd say this Impulse one is one of the better tie-ins that we're going to be covering today. Written by Todd DeZargo with art by Carlo Barberi and Juan Velasco. We are not necessarily continuing on from where the last Young Justice issue left off. This takes place during that issue, because in that one, we mostly dealt with what Robin, Secret, and Lobo were doing. Oh, and Empress, like what they were doing. Now, in this one, we get to see what Superboy, Impulse, Wonder Girl, and Sissy were doing. That's her name, Sissy Jones. Were doing in the meantime. They are currently scouting Apocalypse, looking for the Black Racer, because Superboy really wants to find him, because the Black Racer was holding Steel, and they want to save Steel and see, where the Black Racer is going. So they're currently exploring Apocalypse, looking for him. And so that's when Bart comes up with a pretty great idea, which is, at this point in time, Bart has unlocked a new speed ability, which allows him to multiply himself and send his copies into the past and into the future. So he suggests that he send a copy of himself to the past to go see which direction the Black Racer went. And originally Superboy is like, "That's a terrible idea." And then Wonder Girl is like, "Actually, that's a pretty great idea." And Superboy's like, "Actually, you're right. It is a great idea. Go ahead, Bart." So Bart creates a copy, and the copy comes back in like a millisecond and has figured out that the Black Racer, like, they're going in the wrong direction. The Black Racer went that way, like a different way. So they changed their course. And meanwhile, Granny Goodness senses, like, basically sees that Robin and Empress and Secret and Lobo are on Apocalypse, and she sends a bunch of parademons after them, and as we know, that doesn't end very well. Granny Goodness likes torturing children. It's kind of messed up. That's why she wants to capture them, so that she can torture them. Bart and the gang find a fire pit, and Bart kind of like goes inside it, and Superboy's like, "You idiot, you don't know when that thing's gonna get set off." And Bart causes a piece of piping to fall into the fire pit, and it erupts. And as it erupts, he quickly grabs Wonder Girl and Sissy Jones and gets them out of the way. Normally, I'd be calling her Arrowette, but she's not Arrowette anymore. She's given up that title. Yeah, so he manages to get him like to safety away from the fire pit, and that's when they find Darkseid's Citadel. And Superboy's like, do you know where in the Citadel Black Racer went? And Bada's like, no, you just said to see where he went. Like, he went into the Citadel. You didn't say follow him in there. And Superboy's just like, he could be anywhere. That place is massive. Like, send another copy in there. Follow Black Racer and tell us exactly where he's gone. So Bart creates another copy and he sends him into the Citadel. And as he does it, an army of parademons come out. And so Superboy and Bart and the others have to fight these parademons while Bart's copy follows Black Racer throughout the Citadel. And something interesting that his copy sees is that we get to see, remember that suit of armor that Darkseid offered Superman to wear in order to fight Imperiex? Darkseid still has it because he plans on using it himself, but something interesting of note is that next to it there is an Imperiex drone as well. So it seems like Darkseid is also going to use that too. We don't know how, but yeah, it's interesting. And the Bart copy then sees Black Racer giving Steel over to Darkseid, almost like a tribute. And he's like, ah, dang, that's not good. And so eventually, you know, back with the main Bart and Superboy and that, the way they figure out to get away from the parademons is they trigger a bunch of the fire pits so that it will not only destroy a bunch of them, but also distract them to try and stop them from going after Robin and the gang. But they fail, and the parademons manage to get by them and go towards Robin. Like, Superboy is like, man, we should go help them. And the others are just kind of like, we can't. We got to make sure that we don't die. They'll be able to handle themselves. And so Granny Goodness is like, why are the parademons like messing around? Like, why aren't they just going where I told them to go? And one of the parademons is like, well, while we were going after like Robin and that group, we saw another group of children and we're trying to get them now. And Granny Goodness is like, I did not say to do that. Like, I told none of you to go after these other children. I told you which children you were supposed to go after. I'm just gonna cause you all to self-destruct. And she sets her self-destruct button off and kills all of the parademons. Yeah, just blows them all up. And Young Justice, like Superboy and Wonder Girl and Sissy and Bart are all looking in horror at the fireballs of the burnt carcasses of the parademons falling onto Apocalypse. And that's when they see Bart's copy running towards them. And Bart is like, dude, like, vibrate. And Bart's copy gets hit by a blast, like by one of the parademons' fireballs, like one of the flaming parademons. And it destroys the copy. And everyone is in horror because it's like they're watching Bart himself die. And then they look at Bart, and Bart is on the floor in the fetal position, like, freaking out because not only did he just see himself die, but also it seems like he felt it too. And Superboy's like, maybe that new ability that you've unlocked isn't as good as we thought it was. We better figure out how to help him now. And that's where it ends. It ends on that cliffhanger of Bart freaking out after watching his copy die. So we'll see what happens to Bart in a future issue. But for now, the next issue that we're going to be talking about is Superman Man of Steel issue 117. Okay, so this issue is written by Mark Schultz with art by Doug Monk and Tom Nguyen, and this just highlights the problem with Our Worlds at War, which is kind of how there's so much going on. It's really hard to keep a track of everything, because we're just bouncing around all over the place. Because Lex Corp shot at Darkseid, all of the alliances are breaking up, and that includes Maxima's alliance and her crew. And so Superman's trying to convince them to continue helping Earth, and Maxima's like, no, because Earth turned against Apocalypse, which means they're probably going to turn against us too. Now it's every race for themselves. Meanwhile, Lex has switched alliances, and he's working with General Zod, and they're heading straight for Lex Corp so that Lex Luthor can infiltrate it and speak to his daughter, who is currently working for Brainiac 13 and is in control of LexCorp. So he infiltrates the building and meets her face to face. While that's going on, Maxima's crew attacks Warworld, and most of them just get obliterated except for Maxima and Massacre. Basically, the two named characters are the ones that survive. And as they are about to be killed by Brainiac's forces, Superman, Captain Marvel, Wonder Woman, and Captain Atom show up, though it's almost like the fact I'm even mentioning Captain Marvel and Captain Atom is anything, because they don't do anything other than be background characters. It's really disappointing. They show up and it's kind of like, you forget that they're there. Like, the only ones you remember are there are Diana and Superman, because they're the ones that get lines and stuff. But, like, screw Captain Marvel and Captain Atom, I guess. So Lex speaks to his daughter, and he's basically like, if you were really working for Brainiac 13, then why haven't you killed me? You would think that that would be on your master's agenda. And then Lena is just like, it's pretty epic. Lena is like, you know what? You're right. I should probably do that right now. And she just shoots Lex. Just blasts him. And so Superman continues fighting alongside his friends on Warworld. And Maxima is like, this is futile. We gotta get out of here, because Warworld begins shooting one of its energy tendrils at Earth so it can link up with Earth and suck out Earth's energy, because it's already doing that to Apocalypse. So it's currently attached to Apocalypse and is using Apocalypse, and once it attaches to Earth, it'll be able to take full control of Earth. And Maxima is like, we gotta get out of here, and her crew is reluctant to do so. And so Maxima is like, alright, well, if we're not going to abandon Earth, then let's sacrifice ourselves by pointlessly driving into Warworld and have it amount to nothing, which is exactly what happens. They try to stop the energy tendril by ramming into Warworld with Maximus' ship, and everyone on board is completely obliterated. They all die. And then, right after Maxima freaking sacrifices herself, and almost like a big middle finger to her, the energy tendril is destroyed by Steel. Because Steel has been placed in the suit of armor that Darkseid made, that he originally wanted Superman to wear, and Superman was like, no. Darkseid put Steel's dead body into it and brought Steel back to life, and now Steel is using this, like, really cool Apocalypse Superman armor that he's got on. It's like super edgy. I mean, it's not as cool as the original Steel armor, because the original Steel armor actually has personality and flavor to it. It doesn't. This one doesn't even have a face like the Steel armor does. I just feel really bad for Maxima, because she sacrifices herself, and then right after she sacrifices herself, that's when Steel shows up to help save the day. And like, he basically just does what Maxima failed to do, easy peasy, and breaks the energy tendril and, you know, frees Apocalypse from Warworld's control. And so he decides to help with the outside forces that are currently outside Warworld, to make sure that, like, nobody gets in the way of Superman and Diana. And what Superman and Diana and the other heroes are going to do is they are going to enter Warworld itself, the center of it, in order to confront Brainiac face to face. At the same time, while Diana is going into Warworld alongside Superman, she arranges for it's so weird and like insane. So she gets Themyscira to leave Earth because Themyscira can move by itself. Apparently, I didn't know that, but it can. Themyscira flies into space and puts itself in the way of the energy tendril and Earth to stop the energy tendril from attaching itself to Earth. And so the energy tendril starts destroying Themyscira, and the Themyscirans are like, ah, and like are attacking the energy tendril. It's just so weird. I didn't even know that Themyscira could do that. It's cool. It's kind of a cool idea, I guess. So yeah, Diana is busy trying to fight off the energy tendril alongside the Themyscirans. Yeah, she didn't go into Warworld. I thought she did. She didn't. She didn't go into Warworld with Superman. She stayed behind with Themyscira and fought off the energy tendril. Superman, Captain Atom, and Captain Marvel and Steel went into Warworld. I guess I forgot Steel went in there because they go into Warworld, and then for the rest of the issue, you don't see those three. You only see Superman, because Superman finds Brainiac. He somehow gets captured by Brainiac. Like, off-panel, he confronts Brainiac, and then Brainiac, like, gets his tendrils into Superman's head. It's like we're missing, like, a few pages or something. Because, like, they're already, like, kind of... They're not fighting each other. They're just, like, holding each other's hands and going, like... and, like, pushing against each other's hands... and, like, grasping each other's hands and, like, pushing against each other, and Brainiac has, like, his tendrils inside Superman's head, and is basically just like, let me show you, like, how miserable this planet is, and what I plan to do with it. Like, why fight against me, Superman? Why not just give up your ideals and fight with me for a better world? Because that's what I promise. A world where everything is perfect. And we've already seen what this world is. It's literally just a world made out of computers where humans are being hunted down. And there's barely any left. So he's basically wants a world where it's like the elimination of humankind. The extinction of humankind. Meanwhile, Lex Luthor is just like bleeding out on the floor. And yet he still has the guts and the courage to stand up to his daughter and be like, you are a stupid idiot for trying to kill me. Like, what a weak and, like, imperfect decision, entirely human. That's proof that although Brainiac 13 has turned you into this monstrosity, you're still my daughter, and you're still a human. So the deal is, either you continue to work with someone inferior like Brainiac 13, or you switch sides and you work with your father, the smartest man on the planet, the greatest man who ever lived, the man who will be able to teach you way more than that idiot Brainiac 13. Essentially, you can be on the winning side or you can be on the losing side. The winning side is Lex Luthor, and she falls for it. She falls for it. He's like, you know, because he basically explains to her, he's like, I made the decision to give you to Brainiac 13 because it was the only way that I could survive. That was it. It wasn't because I didn't care about you. It was just the logical choice. And that's how Luthors always work. We always make the choice that guarantees our survival. And if you side with me, it will guarantee your survival. Fighting alongside Brainiac 13 will just end in your destruction because we're going to take him down. And that would include you if you're working with him. And so that's what convinces Lena to be like, all right, Father, like, teach me everything you know, and I'll help you fight against Brainiac 13. So, yeah, she agrees to, she falls for Lex Luthor's, you know, like, what would you call it? Like, his slimy tactics, I guess? Like, his charisma. And yeah, agrees to start working with him and turn against Brainiac 13. And so Superman leaves Brainiac 13 and is like, yo, Steel, I'm not gonna be able to defeat him. He's way too powerful. I want you to, like, get everyone off of Warworld. I'm gonna do something drastic. I'm gonna do something that I think it's I've been pushed to my limits, and there is only one thing I can think of that might give us the edge over Brainiac 13, and then he just flies straight into the sun. And everyone's just like, watching as Superman flies straight into the sun. And so it seems like Superman's going to try and power himself up using the sun by flying straight into it. So we'll find out how that turns out later, because that's where that ends. It ends on that little cliffhanger of Superman flying into the sun. So the next issue that we're going to be talking about is another one-shot, Harley Quinn, Our Worlds at War. Who would have thought that Quinn would have gotten her own one-shot, especially in 2001? Yeah, let's see what this is all about. I hope it's good. It could be good. So, Harley Quinn, Our Worlds at War is crazy, because the Superman issue that we just read was incredibly depressing, full of death and just horrible stuff happening. And then this is the exact opposite of that, where it's like, it's taking place during the same event, but Kyle Kessel, it's almost like he's not treating the event seriously at all. Like, he's already ahead of the population, because he's already just like, oh, this event is just, whatever. I've been asked to write an issue about Harley Quinn, and so I'm going to do that. And so it's going to be incredibly wacky and not serious at all. Completely opposite to the event. And so that's why it's very jarring. I'll talk about a few points that come up through this that just add to, like, why this is such a weird issue, especially in amongst what's currently going on. First of all, we begin with Jimmy Olsen. That's right, Jimmy Olsen. Yeah, the Harley Quinn isn't the main villain, or not the main villain. She isn't the main character of this issue. Jimmy Olsen is the main protagonist of this. Yeah, it's written by Carl Kessel with art by... It's one of those issues that, like, swaps artists every few pages. So it's got art by Aaron Wesenfield, Paul Grist, Paul Chadwick, Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti, and Steve Leiber. And the only name I recognize on here is Jimmy Palmiotti. He's very very well known artist. I think he's done a lot of art for Harley Quinn, specifically like the main Harley Quinn series that she had back in the 90s and early 2000s. But yeah, our main protagonist is Jimmy Olsen. It begins in space. He is on one of the Paradox, and immediately he makes one of the dumbest decisions you could ever make. He finds a weird alien helmet, and he decides to put it on, not knowing what it is. So he puts on this helmet, and he hears gibberish coming from Brainiac, like ones and zeros coming from Brainiac, and he's like, oh, what the hell is that? Oh, it's just Brainiac? Oh, whatever. I'll just put this helmet on, and then all of a sudden he starts getting massive head, like, seizures, like massive pain and stuff from the helmet. It turns out that he ended up inside a escape pod, and the pod is sent careening straight for Earth, crash lands in the middle of Gotham City, and throughout the rest of the comic, Jimmy Olsen will have moments where he just starts saying 101, like he just starts having like these weird like freakouts where he's just like 1010101, and it's like his mind has been messed with by that alien helmet that he put on for some reason. But yeah, he crash lands in Gotham City, and everyone looks at him and they think that he's an alien pretending to be a human. So they're just like, got him! And Jimmy's like, ah! And he runs further into the city where he comes across a couple of cops. He's like, please help me, like, I crash landed and everyone thinks I'm an alien, but I'm actually a human. And then he looks behind the cops and he sees a bunch of dead bodies and he realizes that these aren't cops. They're actually aliens disguised as cops that are killing people in order to, and they're trying to cover up the murders that they're doing. And so they try to kill Jimmy because he's getting in their way. They start shooting at him with their alien blasters. And that's when Harley Quinn shows up and she jumps out of nowhere and lands on top of them, and she's like, hey, I'm not here to, like, I'm here to stop, like, unlawful beating up of innocent people, because, like, I'm not a terrible person, so if I see a bunch of cops wailing on some, scrawny dude, I'll help him. And then, by jumping on the two cops, she accidentally jams one of the aliens' guns, and it blows up, killing both of them. And then she's like, wow, just when you think you've seen it all, spontaneous human combustion, cool. Anyway, what's the problem, kid? Like, why are you getting attacked by cops? And Jimmy basically thinks to himself, he's like, if I don't lie to Harley Quinn right now, she'll probably kill me, so I gotta come up with some kind of lie that'll help me get to Metropolis. So he says to her that he needs to get to his wife and make sure that she's safe and that she's in Metropolis. And Harley Quinn decides to help him because she believes in, like, helping people and love and true love and stuff. So she's like, I'll help you. I'll get you to Metropolis. Let's go to my hideout. And they head off to Harley's hideout, where they find the Joker-mobile, the one from the 70s that has, like, the Joker's face on it. Or I guess it's like, yeah, I think it's like the 70s. He has the Joker's face on it. And she's like, we'll use this in order to get to Metropolis. And before they can get into the car, they find a bunch of, like, goons, like a bunch of minions that work for different villains. So there's, like, a Riddler goon and a Joker goon called Joe, and a couple of goons named Tim and Tom who are Two-Face goons, and then there's this guy named Jude, and she thinks that he's Killer Moth's minion, but he's actually a goon for Calendar Man. It's like 8 years, 3 months, 12 days, and you still can't get that right. So they're hiding a bunch of stuff in the hideout because the war is currently going on, so they've got all food and stuff and they're hiding it in the hideout, and they're like, this is all ours, including the Joker-mobile, so, like, we're not gonna let you have any of this stuff. And so Harley Quinn just starts, like, fighting them, and while she's fighting the goons with, like, rubber bullets and fake prank weapons and stuff, Jimmy jumps into the Joker-mobile and he hotwires it and starts it up, and her and Harley drive away, and one of the goons gets, Jude, grabs a hold of Jimmy's legs as they're driving away, and Harley, like, whacks him off and sends Jude flying into a bunch of, boxes of stuff, and Harley makes a joke where he's like, to the former Calendar Man flunky, you mean? I guess you could say he had a date he couldn't miss, because Jimmy's just like, what happened to him? And she's like, oh, he had a date that he couldn't miss. A lot of dates. Because he landed in, like, a bunch of boxes of dates, like cans of dates. Pretty funny. And so they start driving off to Metropolis, and while they're driving to Metropolis, Harley asks some questions about Jimmy's wife or girlfriend, and he says that he's dating Talia, like Talia Al Ghul, because Talia is apparently Lex Luthor's assistant at the moment. I didn't know that's a thing. So she's Lex Luthor's assistant, or, like, bodyguard, or, like, working for him, and yeah, yeah, so he says that she's his wife and that he needs to go see her in Metropolis. And that's why they're going to Metropolis. And eventually they stop off at a gas station and to fill up the car because they run out of fuel. And then an alien comes up from behind Harley Quinn. This is what happens. Like, this is I'm trying to like say exactly like this comic is just so bizarre. Like, they go to a gas station, an alien comes out of nowhere, grabs Harley Quinn from behind and tries to kill her, and like tries to kill Jimmy as well. And so Jimmy kind of like hides while Harley Quinn fights this alien. And then a cop comes up to him, like the sheriff of the town, and is basically like, this alien came in here and has been causing all sorts of destruction and stuff. So I'm gonna kill the alien. And then I'll also shoot Harley Quinn as well. Because she's, because she sucks. She's a villain. Like, she's evil. She's crazy. So, like, if a stray bullet kills her, then good riddance. And so he goes to shoot this alien. And Jimmy stops him from shooting Harley Quinn and hurting her. And he hands the device. Like, he goes to hand the device. Like, there's this device that the alien wanted. And that's why it's causing all this destruction. And Jimmy thinks that if he gives the device to the alien, it'll stop it from causing trouble. And he goes to give the device to the alien. And the cop shoots it out of his hand. And so Jimmy's like, oh shit, well, the cop just messed everything up, so I guess we'll drive out of here and the alien can be his problem. And so he jumps into the Joker's car, and he drives off with Harley, and the cop shoots at the alien, and the alien shoots at the cop, and he manages to shoot through the alien, killing it. And the alien falls backwards onto a bunch of oil on the ground. And then the cop realizes that he's made a mistake, and he's like, oh shit. And the alien's, like, the energy that the alien can shoot, like, mixes with the oil, and the oil explodes, and the gas station blows up, and the alien and the cop both die. And Jimmy's just like, oh man, like, what happened back there? Like, it wasn't good for either of us. It wasn't good for them, and it wasn't good for us. It's just a weird thing that Kyle Kessel was just, like, trying to do, where he's like, war, nobody wins. Nobody won during that gas station fight. It's like, we may have gotten away, but that cop and the alien both died. But also, it was the cop's fault. Like, whatever. We move on to Metropolis itself. They finally arrive in Metropolis, and as soon as they arrive in Metropolis, the bridge that they drive on gets blown up by the female Furies, who we have seen in previous events like Genesis. They work for Granny Goodness. She orders them around. They're basically just a group of women who work for Granny Goodness, who torture people. Specifically, there's one member whose name is Lashina, and she's literally like, her whole thing is that she tortures people with BDSM. She's like a BDSM woman. So they're here to just kill Harley Quinn because they hate her, because they went to a party that she held and they hated it, and now they want to kill her. I'm not joking. I'm not making it up. That's exactly why they're here. They're here, like, well, it's not why they're here. They're here because Apocalypse is taking over Metropolis, but the reason why they've just happened to find Harley is because they've been meaning to kill her for a long time. So they try to kill Harley, and so Harley gets, like, Jimmy out of the way, and she goes running off into a nearby warehouse, and the Furies go after her, except for Lashina. Lashina stays behind in order to torture Jimmy, because she wants to torture Jimmy because she's into that. And it's really weird. Like, while she's torturing Jimmy starts doing his, like, 110111, like, thing where, like, his head is all messed up. And she's like, man, I prefer it when they scream. And it's like, okay, Kyle, settle down. What are you doing? Why are you being... What's with this weird stuff that's going on? It's almost like kinky, like it's like kink level stuff. Um, so while Jimmy is being tortured by Lashina, Harley fights the Furies in the warehouse, or at least she sort of fights them. She starts fighting one of them, and then they just start like basically play fighting with each other because one of the female Furies is just as insane as Harley. So they start fighting the other female Fury. Like, she manages to convince her, Harriet is the name of the female Fury. She convinces Harriet to turn against her own people because she's insane. Like, Harriet is insane and Harley is insane, and so they just start messing around with each other. And then another member of the female Furies grabs Harley Quinn, and Harley convinces her to go against her orders because she's like, "Oh, Stomper, you're a goddess, right? You're an evil goddess. Wouldn't it be evil for you to go against your own orders?" And Stomper's like, "Yeah, sure, I'll go against my own orders." And then Harley Quinn gets away from the female Furies off panel. We don't get to see what happens. Because Jimmy is being tortured by Lashina, and then his 1010110 like messed up language thing starts going off, and then he just like passes out. And then when he wakes up, Harley Quinn has found him, and they've made it to Metropolis. Like, they've made it to a point where Jimmy and Harley can part ways, but before they do, Jimmy admits that he wasn't really with Talia, and Harley is like, "I know, because like nobody is actually in Metropolis because they've all evacuated from Metropolis, and I knew that from the very beginning. I knew you were lying." And then Jimmy kisses Harley because he admits to her that he finds her like incredibly cute and attractive and like smart and funny and amazing, and then he kisses her, and then Harley Quinn slaps him, and then he's like, "All right, I better get out of here before you freaking kill me." And Harley's like, "It's never too late," and draws a gun on him and starts shooting at Jimmy, and Jimmy's like, "Ah," and runs away, and Harley's like, "Yeah, you better show me the bottom of your feet, you heel, and if I ever see you again." And then she's just like, "That was tons more fun than an evening of popcorn in the tube, even with Freckles lying about him and Talia. Like I believe that for a heartbeat. Well, all's fair in love and war." And then she walks off into the sunset, I guess. And Jimmy is just like, well, I better go look for Superman now and see how he's doing. It's not like anything worse could possibly happen to me. Like, it's not like there's anything right around the corner that could possibly go wrong. And as he says this, we see that right around the corner is General Zod and like his lackeys waiting for Jimmy and waiting to ambush him. And so, yeah, that's the Harley Quinn one shot. It sucks. Not in a way that it's like bad, but in a way, yeah, I guess in a way it's bad. I think it's just so confusing. There's so much going on. Like, I tried my best to explain everything that was going on in it. I think it's one of those comics. It's like, it's hard to explain. You have to read it, and even if you do read it, it's still confusing. But like, you can't really. It's just a lot of things happening, especially towards the end. Like, the story really starts to fall apart once the female Furies show up, and you don't even see the end of their fight. It's so weird. It's like Harley is fighting them, and then they start fighting together, and then they turn on, like, Harley convinces one of them to turn on the other female Furies, and it's like, what the hell? It's like, Kyle, you just did not give a crap when you wrote this, didn't you? You were tasked with the impossible. Write a Harley Quinn one-shot that ties into a Superman event that Harley Quinn has nothing to do with, and yet still tie it into Superman somehow. I know, let's make Jimmy Olsen the main protagonist and then have Harley Quinn go on a road trip with him to Metropolis. On paper, that sounds like it could work, but it didn't. Especially at the end when, like, Jimmy is just like, I'm just gonna, like, make out with Harley for some reason because I'm in love with her. Whatever. That's enough of that. We're not going to be talking about that one anymore. We're done. The next tie-in that we're going to be talking about is Superboy issue 91, and I hope it's a lot more cohesive than that. So it's written by Joe Kelly with art by Pasquale Ferry and Keith Champagne, and unfortunately, this Superboy tie-in isn't... I don't want to say it's not good. I think writing-wise, it is really good. I think what it suffers from is the fact that it doesn't really have a very good placement within this event. The issue takes place throughout every part of the event and is full of, like it kind of starts, like, I don't know, it takes place at times that have already gone by. You know, there are Imperiex drones that appear in this, but we already know that all the Imperiex drones have been destroyed, and yet a large part of this issue is, like, I guess what Crypto was doing during the whole event. But it's like, why do we have to read this now? I guess because it technically, like, takes place after Impulse started being, because at the end of the Young Justice issue, Impulse saw himself die, like, he saw a copy of himself die, and then he started, like, you know, having a seizure, and, like, he ended up in the fetal position and was, like, psychologically damaged because of it. And so, like, it takes place after that, but also it takes place at other points during the war as well. The main points of view of this issue is, like, Superboy talking about everything that he's been through, which I'm not going to go over again because I've already been over it. If you want to know what Superboy did throughout this entire event, rewatch the video, like, listen to the video again. It does tell us what Guardian got up to during most of the event, because as we know, Jim Harper was killed, and then they made a clone of him, and the clone has been aging rapidly, and now it has grown into a full man again, and has become the Guardian again. So what he's been doing is he went out to Africa in order to deal with an Imperiex, one of Imperiex's constructs, and while he was there, he found a group of men who are currently taking part in the war, and he saved their lives, but unfortunately, a lot of them died in the process, but he managed to save a few of them, and he got them out of the battlefield and to a paradox where they were able to heal. I think it was only one guy survived out of the whole group. And he's still considered a hero because this guy surviving allowed them to gain, like, this guy had the research, like, this guy had the knowledge that they needed to figure out how to destroy the Imperiex construct that was in Africa. So he's a hero. And Guardian is just like, all of these men may have died, you may have barely survived, but you are a hero because with your knowledge we will be able to destroy this Imperiex construct. The only problem is that Imperiex has already been destroyed. So why are there still constructs to destroy when Imperiex is gone and all of his drones are dead? And I guess there were just leftover constructs that still needed to be dealt with. I'm guessing that's the only conclusion I can come with, like, that I can come up with, is that Imperiex is dead, but he still had his machines on Earth, and so people like Guardian are going around destroying them. But that doesn't explain why Krypton still had to fight, like, Crypto, the dog, had to fight an Imperiex drone, because that's what he does in this issue. So Crypto sees that Superboy is, you know, dealing with the war, and he wants to get involved, and so he flies off and begins helping people over throughout the world, which is really cute. Seeing just Crypto saving people from floods all around the world, burning buildings, little babies in the forest. There's like a little child that he saves from a fire. And then there are people that he wasn't able to save as well. There's a really nice shot of Crypto finding someone that he couldn't save in time and howling. And then he makes it to the Arctic, presumably where the Fortress of Solitude is, where he finds one of Imperix's ships, and a drone comes out of it, and he fights it, but he loses. So Crypto tries to fight this Imperiex drone, and it beats him into the ground, and Crypto barely survives, but the Imperiex drone leaves, and Superman shows up, and even though Crypto lost, Superman still pats him and like sits next to him and is like, good boy. And Crypto's all like, yay, like he's happy, like I may have lost, but according to Superman I still did a good job. And then at the end of the issue, after we've seen all that, it ends with Superboy kind of just at a point where he just doesn't know what to do. Like, Impulse is in a really bad state right now, and it's also revealed in this issue that the entirety of Apocalypse was sent through a boom tube, and so Young Justice and Apocalypse itself have been teleported to the other side of the universe. So now they're trapped somewhere else, away from everyone else, marooned somewhere in deep space. And so Superboy is just kind of like, I can't believe this is my life. Wake me up, please. This isn't fun anymore. And so that's where it ends. It kind of ends with Superboy just kind of like in this hopeless situation of like, we've been teleported to some other part of the universe, and we just gotta hope that someone finds us before it's too late. Like, before we starve to death or die. Yeah, things aren't looking good. And that's pretty much that entire issue. Overall, like, from a writing standpoint, it's a pretty great issue. Because it very much deals with Superboy kind of having a breakdown, like a psychological breakdown over the situation that he's currently in. We also got to see, Crypto the Superdog doing his thing, saving people, and the Guardian helping people. But the problem is that, like, it just doesn't really fit. Like, what the Guardian and Crypto are doing doesn't really fit within the story, like, because Imperiex is gone, and yet what they are doing is directly related to Imperiex, and it just doesn't feel like it should be happening. Like, that stuff doesn't feel relevant overall to what's current. Like, it feels like this issue it feels like the Guardian and Crypto stuff should have come earlier than it did now. Like, I feel like it's too late for them to be telling us what these characters are doing. But yeah, that's that issue. And the next issue that we're talking about is Action Comics issue 782. Alright, so with these next two issues of Our Worlds at War, I'm actually going to talk about them concurrently because they both take place at the same time. More focused on talking about Action Comics because that's where most of the action happens, but there's some stuff that happens in Wonder Woman that adds a little bit of context, but you really have no reason to read the Wonder Woman one because it's essentially the same stuff happening from different perspectives. It's written by Joe Kelly with art by Kano, and it is one of the most confusing issues I've ever read. I actually did it. I read it. I tried talking about it, but I decided that I was going to just re-record again now that I'm fully clear on exactly what happened at the end, because they do not make it very clear at all. Reading it is not enough. I had to read it, and then I had to like look up the Wikipedia and just make sure what happened, like what I thought happened, did happen. I was right, but I just needed to make sure. So, Brainiac 13 has essentially turned himself into a virus by absorbing Imperix's energy. And so he is trying to take over Earth by shooting a massive tendril at Earth to connect with it. And the heroes are all trying to stop the tendril. Lena Luthor has decided to team up with Lex Luthor. And so what they're doing is they're trying to take over LexCorp Tower, which Brainiac 13 had connected to, and they're going to try and use the laser in LexCorp Tower against Brainiac 13 to try and destroy the tendril, but they very quickly realize that they're not going to be able to do that, so they decide to come up with a different plan to stop Brainiac 13. The plan is that Darkseid, Wonder Woman, Donna Troy, and Tempest are going to use their combined powers to create a boom tube big enough to send Warworld into the past, like millions of years into the past. But the only way they're going to be able to do that is if Warworld is moved into a position far enough away from Earth that Earth doesn't get caught in the boom tube as well. And luckily, Superman is here to be able to move Warworld far enough away from Earth so that the boom tube will be able to take only Warworld and whoever is in its, like whoever is on Warworld. Because in the previous issue, Superman flew into the sun and he powered himself up. And as soon as he came back, he immediately went straight for Brainiac 13. And Lex Luthor has a little bit of a hiccup when he's trying to use the LexCorp Tower weaponry. Lena Luthor gets stolen by Brainiac. And so she ends up on Warworld. And so Lex has to use Jimmy Olsen to power the machine instead, because at the end of the previous one-shot, Jimmy Olsen was kidnapped by General Zod and his lackeys, and this is why. It was so that he could power the machine that Lex Luthor is going to use on Warworld. You know, and Lex is willing to sacrifice his own daughter, because obviously she's on Warworld, so if the boom tube teleports Warworld away, she's going to go with it. And because they're going to be sent millions of years in the past, it's going to be the point in time when the Big Bang happens, so whoever's there will be destroyed by the Big Bang. So Superman attacks Warworld and goes straight for Brainiac 13 and starts punching his way through Brainiac 13, trying to get to the core of Warworld, because Brainiac 13 has become one with Warworld, so Warworld is essentially made out of him. So Superman smashes his all the way to the core, and it turns out that Imperiex is still alive inside Warworld. He is what is powering Warworld. So even though his outer casing was destroyed, he is the heart of Warworld, and he wants Superman to destroy Brainiac 13 so that he can be freed, and Superman isn't stupid and doesn't want to free Imperiex, so instead of destroying Brainiac 13, he goes with Lex's plan, and instead moves Warworld so that the boom tube can suck it up. And that's exactly what happens. They create the boom tube, it absorbs Warworld, it takes it millions of years into the past, where the Big Bang happens, but right before the Big Bang happens, Superman grabs Lena Luthor, who has been reduced back into being a baby by Brainiac 13. You don't get to see it happens off panel, but Brainiac 13 turns Lena Luthor back to a baby. Superman grabs her and leaves through the boom tube before it closes, and he leaves Warworld and Brainiac 13 and Imperiex to be blown up by the Big Bang. And so it's kind of like this ironic thing of Brainiac 13 realizing that instead of creating the new universe that he wanted, he was partly like he was a part of the creation of the old universe, or like our universe, and that he was a part of the Big Bang. So it's kind of like this irony of like he got to create a universe, he just doesn't get to live in it. And so Superman travels back to the present with baby Lena Luthor and delivers her to Lex. And Apocalypse, unfortunately, took a lot of damage from the battle. And so Darkseid was like, I'm going to leave now so that Apocalypse can heal, but eventually I'll come back. But right now I've got to make the unfortunate decision to leave Earth and conquer it another day. Which isn't unfortunate for us, it's just unfortunate for him. And yeah, that's kind of where it ends. It ends with the war is over, and now we have to pick up the pieces that are remaining. And so there's a couple of issues left to talk about before we get to the very end of the event. We've got Supergirl issue 61. So yeah, let's see what happens. This is all about Supergirl dealing with the aftermath of the war. So in Supergirl issue 61, we find Supergirl at the it's written first of all before I forget. It's written by Peter David with art by Leonard Kirk and Robin Riggs. So Supergirl goes to a nearby police station because Buzz had been taken in after, because he'd been charged with, the stuff with, assaulting the girl. But they actually let him go because she came in and said that he actually did save her. Even though he, left her for a little bit, he did come back and he did save her. And Supergirl's like, all right, where did he go? And they're just like, well, he didn't really go anywhere. He went straight to the hospital because we put him in a cell with a bunch of these guys who we didn't know were the men that assaulted this woman, and they beat the crap out of him, and so now he's in the hospital. And Supergirl gets really pissed off and breaks their table. And the captain comes in and is just like, you better get out of here before we charge you for what you're doing, miss. And so Supergirl's just like, all right, I got it. I'm off. And as she heads off, she finds this alien scrounging around the city. And then she notices it, eating the carcass of a woman. And that's when she decides to go in and stop it. And she starts fighting the alien. And the alien is just grabs her with its tendrils and then is just like, what are you doing? And it turns out this alien is really smart and is just like, I'm not attacking anyone, I'm not hurting anyone. She's like, then what are you even doing here? I saw you eat that woman's corpse. And he's just like, yeah, but she wasn't doing anything with it. I am incredibly polite. I'm just a really polite alien. I was just doing courtesy, and not letting that woman's corpse rot. I follow wars throughout the galaxy, and then I come to these planets where the wars have happened, and I just scavenge for stuff. And so there's a little bit of a morality thing between argument between this alien and Supergirl, where she's just like, do you not have any shame? All these people died, and all you care about doing is coming here and, taking their stuff. And the alien's just like, look, I've been to a lot of planets where there's a lot of wars. The amount of stuff I've seen, shouldn't you be the ones? You can't really talk to me about shame. I'm not hurting anyone. I don't think you can say that you, the same thing. I don't think you can say that you've never hurt anyone, Supergirl. How is somebody like you gonna lecture me about violence when you're the one that implements it? And so eventually the alien, like, because Supergirl just keeps having a go at him and is like, you can't do this, like, can you just leave, please? And the alien's like, all right, fine, I'll finish up what I'm grabbing, like, I'll finish up my scavenging, and then I won't come back, I'll leave. And so Supergirl heads off to go to the hospital to find Buzz, and that's where she gets given a note by the doctor that says that Buzz has left. So he got all good. He was all healed up, and then he left. And so she continues her search for Buzz. And while she's just flying around looking for him, she finds that the police are shooting the alien that she was talking to before, and they ask for her help. And Supergirl is like, "Why are you attacking him?" And he's like, "Why are we attacking him? Look at that thing. We're attacking him because just look at him." And Supergirl's like, "I think you should just leave him alone. Like, just let him do his business and then he'll be gone." And the captain's just like, "What are you talking about?" And Supergirl's like, "I don't have time for this. I'm just telling you, you should just leave him alone and stop attacking him." And she just flies off. He's like, "I'm sure you'll do just fine when I'm gone." And, yeah, that's the whole issue. Overall, like, it's nothing crazy. Like, it's nothing, it doesn't have any kind of, like, significance overall to the event, but I think it's a pretty fun issue, especially because it kind of, like, misleads you, especially the cover, because the cover involves the alien kind of opening its mouth over Supergirl's head, so you're thinking, like, oh, Supergirl's gonna have to fight an alien. But it turns out the alien is the one that doesn't want to fight, and the alien is the peaceful one. He even puts on, like, these glasses, and he's got 6 eyes, so he puts on, like, a pair of, like 6 pairs of glasses that are all joined together. It's quite funny. If there was a tie-in that I would say, like, is worth reading while reading this event, this is just one of them, because it's just fun. It's a funny tie-in, and I like it. But the next tie-in that we're going to be talking about is Batman issue 594, written by Ed Brubaker with art by Scott McDaniel. As you know, previously in a couple of the other Batman tie-ins, we were dealing with a little plot thread that involved an alien that had landed in Gotham because of the war. And when we last saw the alien, he was being taken in by a priest. And maybe we'll learn what happened to that alien in this tie-in. I hope we do. So, much like the other Batman tie-in, there's 2 stories going on. The one that is happening in the main Batman story, which we're not going to be talking about because that has nothing to do with our Worlds at War. And the storyline the conclusion to the storyline that we are going to talk about, which is the alien that was brought in by the priest. So, Batman, alongside Cassandra Cain, who is the current Batgirl, are investigating this alien, like where its whereabouts are, because Batman doesn't know where the alien's gone. He just knows that it exists and that it's gone somewhere. And the DEO have a feeling that, like, they know that the priest has the alien, and they're trying to get it from him, and they're trying to, like, break their way in so they can grab the alien. But the priest has convinced, like, the local police and the mayor that they don't have an alien, and that it's just a guy that they're looking after. Bruce goes and talks to the commissioner, and eventually gets the information that he needs, which is to go and, like, that the priest has the alien. So he and Cassandra decide to head to where the priest is so that they can meet with the alien. And when they get there, there's a bunch of DEO agents set up outside that are going to try and break in. And so Batman and Cassandra stop them and enter the building, where Batman tells the priest to bring him to the alien so that he can take him to safety. And so the priest begrudgingly allows Batman to go and see the alien, where he tells Batman that the alien is dying and that all he's been doing is drawing. And he drew Batman and Superman together. Like, he actually drew, like, a little drawing of Batman and Superman. So it's kind of like he foresaw them. And it's kind of alluding to the next issue, which is World's Finest. So it's kind of like the alien is alluding to like World's Finest having some kind of role in the finale of this event. And the alien connects with Batman using its like tentacle hand, and it shows Batman how it came to Earth and also how to cure those guys that were put into comas because of the alien. And then it dies. The alien dies after it tells Batman how to help these men, and so he passes on the information to the doctors, and the men wake up from their comas. And unfortunately, the alien passed away, and the body was taken care of, so that the DEO would never get their hands on it. And that's really it. That's how the story is concluded. I wouldn't say I'm disappointed in the conclusion of the story, because it was always just a B plot, and I wasn't expecting it to have any kind of like great conclusion. But I think it was satisfying enough. I like the fact that it had a conclusion. I was afraid it might have been one of those plot points that kind of just got dropped. So I'm glad that we got to see. I'm glad Ed Brubaker did bother coming up with an ending, and it wasn't really a happy ending. It was a sad ending. It was a happy ending for the guys that were in comas, but it was a sad ending for the alien. Unfortunate that he passed away. But yeah, that's the end of that issue, and we have one more issue to talk about in this event, which is World's Finest, Our Worlds at War, one shot, written by Jeff Loeb. And it's another one of those issues that has multiple artists working on the book at the same time. So it's got Mike Wieringo and Jose Marzan Jr., Doug Mank and Walden Wong, Phil Jimenez and Mark Morales, Mark Buckingham and Wayne Foucher, Bill Shenkovic, Yvel Guichette and Dexter Vines, Pascal Ferry and Marlo Alquiza, Todd Nork and Larry Stucker, Duncan Rolu, Ed McGuinness and Cam Smith, and yeah, that's all the artists. A lot of artists working on this one issue, and it's only 38 pages, so yeah, a lot of artists. But let's get straight into it. The final issue. So talking about this issue is going to be rough because it's incredible. This issue is incredible. It's probably the best issue of this entire event. And it's completely ruined by the fact that there's no... Because this issue relies entirely on the emotional weight that a lot of the deaths in this story had. But as we know, like, a lot of these characters don't stay dead. And so this issue, while being incredible, has pretty much no weight to it because, you know, there are these characters that are being mourned who some will come back in like a couple of months, some won't come back until like, you know, 5 years after this, but they still come back. You know, Aquaman pretty much comes back almost immediately after this. Not immediately, but like not long after. Hippolyta will come back 5 years later. Guy Gardner comes back when Jeff Johns takes over Green Lantern, which isn't that long after this. Like 3 years or so. The only real characters that are probably going to stay dead are Sharon, the Strange Visitor, possibly Rock, but I think even he gets brought back too. General Rock. And like Samuel Lane, like General Lane, like I know he doesn't stay dead. I'm pretty sure he comes back too. So it's kind of just like there aren't very many characters in this where it's like they're gonna stay dead unless nobody cares about them, which is even sadder. It's sadder to read this and be like, oh, that character probably doesn't come back because nobody gives a crap about, like, nobody cares enough to bring them back. I don't know. If you want emotional deaths, or if you want deaths in an event where the weight isn't going to be taken away by that character being brought back, then you should only pick characters that probably aren't going to be brought back. Characters who people don't care enough about to go through the trouble of retconning their deaths. But then you hit that wall of, well, everyone cares. Like, there's a character that everyone cares about. Every character is someone's favorite character. So the Justice League are going to mourn Aquaman by building a massive statue of him in the middle of the ocean. And they want Batman to join them, and Batman's too busy trying to find the location of Young Justice with Red Tornado, because we forgot that they were sent to another part of the universe, and so they still need saving. So Batman and Red Tornado are working to try and get them back. Like I said, it's very emotional seeing the Justice League all come together, mourning over Aquaman, and like, you know, you even get a brief moment with the Titans where Tempest, Garth, is mourning over Aquaman, and they kind of just turn to him and they're like, well, since Arthur's gone, are you the new Aquaman? And Garth's just like, what? And it's kind of like, this isn't gonna stick for very long at all. Like, Arthur's gonna come back very soon, and if Garth does become Aquaman, it's gonna be for a very short period of time. And so while this is some great writing and it's very emotional and the art is fantastic because it's Phil Jimenez, there's no weight. Unfortunately, there's no weight, and I don't think. I don't want to say that Jeff Loeb didn't have foresight that these characters would be brought back, but he had to have known that if he killed off Hippolyta, Aquaman, Guy Gardner, like, he had to have known that those deaths wouldn't stick. And if he didn't, then he is incredibly dense, because you can't kill off Aquaman and expect that Aquaman is going to stay dead. And you can't kill off, you know, Wonder Woman's mother outside of the Wonder Woman series and expect that it's going to stick. Because some Wonder Woman writer is going to come along and bring her back because they wanted to use her. And they didn't want her to be dead. And that's what happens. That's what happens in a future event, is that Hippolyta gets brought back. And it makes this scene of the Justice Society of America mourning her death. It's incredible. You know, they're playing poker together because that's what they enjoyed doing with Hippolyta, and you know, they're all talking about like memories that they've had with her and stuff, and then Sand comes in and is like, hey, we gotta go, you know, to the funeral for her, because Superman and Wonder Woman show up and they're like, are you ready? And the Justice Society are like, yeah, let's go. And it's like, let's go say goodbye to our old gal. And it's incredible. Like, it's very emotional, and it's pretty beautiful, but at the same time, it's undercut by the fact that, like, it's not gonna stick. It's the double-edged sword of writing deaths in comic books, is that, like, they don't stick. So you're trying to draw this emotional, and you are, like, you're making, it's very emotional, and it's very deep, and it's pretty great. But it's always going to be undercut by the fact of, like, knowing that character comes back, and just being, and reading this and being like, this is sad, but also it isn't, because they come back. Like, I can't... This is some great writing, and I feel bad for the characters, but I know that she comes back, and so it kind of ruins it. Another big one, another big moment in this is the funeral of General Lane, and it's just like, knowing that he's not going to stay dead really makes this funeral scene lack weight, which sucks, because it's great. It's a great scene. You know, Lex Luthor is there. You know, he folds up the flag and puts it on the coffin as it gets lowered into the grave, and you know, Clark and Lois are there, and He quickly leans into her ear and says like, "I'm gonna go get in. Quickly get changed into my Superman uniform." And he like zooms off and puts a Superman uniform on, and then we have this lovely shot of Clark hovering over General Lane's coffin as it's being lowered, saluting as Superman, and also the Black Hawk jets are flying overhead. It's like I said, it's great. It's really great, but at the same time, it's not going to stick, and so it really takes away the weight. And then immediately after, we're followed by, you know, this very emotional moment of Clark Kent and Lois Lane heading back to the Kent farm in order to mourn the Kents, because Superman hasn't really had a chance to mourn them because he's been busy fighting. And he gets there, and Lois is like, "Clark, what are you going to do about this, Clark?" And he's like, "Everyone who fought, especially your dad, they were the world's finest." And that line there is incredible. I love it. It's so good. And then he's just like, "Smallville, the farm, my parents. We won the war, Lois, right? We won." And it just ends with Clark bawling his eyes out as he holds the letterbox of the Kents. And it's very emotional and a great scene, especially because you don't often see Superman cry like this. And it's just, this isn't where the Kents die. They don't die here. They're not dead. They come back. They don't die. Like, Jonathan Kent doesn't die until 2008. For real. So it's kind of like, you know, incredible writing undercut by unfortunate facts that these characters don't stay dead. Eventually, Jonathan Kent would stay dead for a while, but it wouldn't be this time. It would be the next time he dies, which I think is in like Action Comics 800 and something. But yeah, that is Our Worlds at War. Overall, I think it's worth reading, especially if you're a Superman fan. It's worth reading, but just don't read all the tie-ins unless you are a completionist and you want to read the whole thing, because the tie-ins just make it more confusing. When I was reading the main Superman titles, I was enjoying the event a lot more, I think. If I'd had only read the main titles, I probably would have enjoyed it more than I did. Ranking it as a whole, I would probably rank it lower than a lot of events that I've read in the past, just because of how confusing it is. And I think it's kind of, I'm mixed on it really, because there are some incredible moments like what we just talked about. Also, you know, when the Kents die and Clark and Supergirl, like Superman and Supergirl, like you know, having a brief moment together to mourn over it before it's cut off by Superman having to go save the JLA. Like, it has moments like that that are incredible, but it's far and few between. You know, we're having moments like that whenever we're not dealing with confusing bullshit. And it really, yeah, the tie-ins really harmed this. Even the Superboy ones and Supergirl ones, which you think would have added to the event in a good way, they didn't. Most of them sucked. The Superboy tie-ins were pretty much all terrible. The Young Justice ones were pretty good. I liked those. I'd say if you were going to read any tie-ins, read the Young Justice ones. Just don't read Supergirl or the Superboy ones. Not that the Supergirl ones are bad, it's just they take away from the event, and it makes things... It feels like you're jumping around too much when you're reading all the tie-ins. They don't fit into the story very well. And this wasn't supposed to be a crossover story either. It was supposed to be just in the Superman title. but the editors at the time were like, hey, let's make it a series-wide event. And that's the problem, is that like last minute you make it a series-wide crossover, and this is what you end up with. You know, and this wouldn't be the last time that they would do that. And it wasn't the first time either. They did it in the past too. It very much feels like this is kind of like, we had War of the Gods, which was, you know, Wonder Woman's event that got messed over by editorial and was confusing because of the tie-ins, and no one was really giving a straightforward direction for the event to go, and so it was kind of going all over the place. This is the War of the Gods for Superman. It's not terrible, it's just a mess. So yeah, if you're gonna read it, just stick to the main titles, skip the tie-ins. But, you know, before we finish off this video, I thought we'd end on a bit of a higher note. I've got another song that I've put together, because I've started doing these songs based on events that I'll just be putting at the end of each video, and as kind of like a bit of like a goodbye to these events. So I made one for this one, and yeah, I've been waiting until the second part to put it out. I've had it made for like months now, and I'm finally going to be able to release it. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you next week for Flash Green Lantern Brave and the Bold, which was a miniseries that came out in 1999. I forgot to do it, but we're going to be doing that next week. So, yeah, hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you next week for Brave and the Bold.
The ground's ablaze, in the shadow of destruction, we're lost in the maze. War drums echo from star to star, a cosmic storm tearing us apart. Imperiex comes with black untold, it's under endless and hot so cold. The universe shakes under its reign, in the chaos we find our pain. And though we won't kneel, we won't break, in the face of doom we won't forsake. With courage fierce and hearts ablaze, in the chaos we find the pain. But we won't kneel, we won't break, in the face of doom we won't forsake. With courage fierce and hearts ablaze, we'll fight through the darkest days. Our world's at war, the battle's here, in the face of death we shed no tear. Through the fire, through the storm, in this war we are reborn. Heroes rise from every land, united front we take a stand. From the depths of space to the city streets, we fight together, we won't retreat. Superman leads with a heart of steel, Wonder Woman's might, it's all too real. Batman's might, sharp as a blade, in this war we're not afraid. But we won't kneel, we won't break, in the face of doom we won't forsake. The courage fierce and hearts ablaze, in the chaos we find the pain. Our world's at war, the battle's here, in the face of death we shed no tear. Through the fire, through the storm, in this war we are reborn. From the ashes we'll arise, with the strength to defy. In the twilight, in the fray, we'll find hope, we'll find a way. Our world's at war, the battle's here, in the face of death we shed no tear. Through the fire, through the storm, in this war we are reborn. When the final shot is fired, and the darkness is retired, we'll stand tall, unbroken, inspired. In this war we're not just survivors,